Hey, Brazier.
Yo.
Remember sitting at the house on the living room couch thinking no way them boys wouldn't win. Between them, big three pitchers, Andrew and Chipper, it was going to be hard to keep up with the Joneses. But as fate would have it, that Atlantic Magic got put down by them damn Padres. I guess destiny.
Whoa. Are you quoting Morgan Wallen?
Never heard of her.
Never heard of it. I'm Clint.
And I'm Dusty.
And welcome to Cuttin Up. This is Wednesday, March the 5th. This is Dusty, our second podcast. I'm just going to call this one 1B because I think we were still getting our feet wet.
Oh, absolutely.
Last week.
Yeah, it was.
There were things I could go back and listen to that was like, yeah, you shouldn't have said that. Dropped an F-bomb that I didn't realize I did while we were.
You did?
And trust me, my mom let me know about it.
My mom let me know about it.
All right, so Miss Sherry, Miss Jennifer, we're going to try to make sure we don't drop any F-bombs. I can't promise there won't be any cursing, but there won't be any F-bombs. If we are, I'm going to make sure Hayden, our producer over here, he's going to edit that out.
He will take care of it.
Yeah. But Dusty, we got a big show tonight. We had a lot of response on Facebook and
we did.
Social media.
We had a bunch of our buddies from back in the day comment on it. Now, I'm kind of excited to get into some of their comments.
Yeah. It was. I'll say this. It was a bigger response than what I thought it would be.
Absolutely. I'm just going to be honest with you. I didn't know how it would even turn out.
Yeah.
You know, we started as when we put it out there, it was like 7 or 8 views, and I was like,
Yeah.
Well, then it's like it just slowly picked up, and I look today, we're well over 200.
All right. Yeah.
I'd have to ask my daughter what we look like on Spotify, but we were around the 10 to 15 views on Spotify.
Okay, but now, listeners, we're going to need those numbers to grow. So hit that like button, hit that share button, because me and Dusty are trying to get paid here.
Yes, we're trying to become celebrities.
We're trying to get sponsors.
Okay. Yeah, we got one sponsor, Field and Brown's Barbershop.
Yeah, and they don't pay anything.
I was going to talk to the owner, see if we could get some kind of endorsement deal. But
it don't pay anything. No, it's all overhead, that business.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we get into our big topic, which is the 90s era Braves, Dusty, it's been a pretty good, you had a pretty good week of it. I got to go to North Carolina and visit my oldest daughter. I got to watch a North Carolina baseball game, got a view of the press box, got to see Belichick.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't get close enough to talk to him. He still looked like a dick. But
still
bad look on his face.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool. I want to give a shout out to the voice of the Tar Heels, Mr. Dave Nathan. He gave us a tour of everything, and it was so cool. But how was your week?
Man, it's been good so far, man. We just finished up with some basketball. My son did, and just kind of done the long weekend thing. But now we're back here on Wednesday, and we're back at it.
And winter has came back here in Tennessee.
As I got in the truck leaving to come to the show, and it was spitting snow in Columbia.
I saw the lights on at the baseball field, and I thought, surely they're not up there practicing on a Wednesday night in this mess.
They're up there. I don't know what they're doing, but they're up there.
I'd like to say I used to be that tough, but I don't think I was.
I don't think I was either.
All right, well, this week in sports, there's some things I'd kind of like for us to touch on before we get into our big topic. First, did you see where Anthony Edwards, talking NBA news, got him 2 technicals again? I mean, he's giving Rasheed Wallace a run for his money.
I was fixing to say, Rasheed may not have nothing on Anthony.
No, I don't think so. And he was really, he pretty much let folks know what he thought about it. But I think Anthony Edwards is an ultimate troll.
I think so. I think
I think he does it to have fun.
Yes, that's what I was saying. I think he's trying to have that bad boy persona. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. Very athletic.
But the main thing I want to talk about, and again, I don't want this show to come off like it's a LeBron hating show, but LeBron interviewed said, well, if I was him, I wouldn't want to be the face of the league either. The way the media attacks us nowadays. One, LeBron, you are the face of the NBA. Okay? And you do want to be the face of the NBA, without a doubt. But 2, taking what is said on our podcast or any social media is not news. Okay? No. And what he needs to remember, there's a lot of former NBA players that are analysts now that are saying the same things.
Absolutely.
So, listen, you want your $400 or $500 million and you want to be the face of it, it comes with some negative talk every once in a while.
And it kind of has to toughen you up.
Yeah, well, I mean, good God, he's 41?
Something like 40, 41 years old.
I mean, you would think his skin's a little tougher than that by now.
And I think it gets softer each year.
It may. But I did you see the stat where showing him and his son, or the father-son duo, have the most career points of anybody?
No, I didn't see that.
LeBron's, I think his son's got like 3.
We wasted a first-round pick on it.
Bronny, hey, just keep getting better, buddy.
Yeah.
Second, for folks that don't know, Dusty and I, we're big wrestling fans. John Cena made a return, won the Elimination Chamber, but so did The Rock return. And John Cena, for the first time in 21-year
career,
is a heel.
Full-blown heel.
Yeah.
Listen, we got in the truck and from watching it, and I got home and was really kind of thinking about it on the way home because it was fresh. For people who are wrestling fans like me and you're going to like, this was as big as Hogan turning when he joined NWO. Really, in the big scheme of things.
I didn't see it coming.
I would have, if we had 3 scenarios and to pick one, and that was one of them, I would have never picked that one.
Hayden over there, our producer Hayden, folks, he's about 20. How old are you, Hayden? 23 years old. He couldn't keep from watching it the night before. We had to not because we all had things going on. I was out of town, so we all made a vow. We're not going to watch it. We're going to watch it the next day. I knew the 24-year-old was not going to.
He
but to his credit, he was over there. Looked like he was about to explode. Wanting to tell us, y'all wait till this. Y'all wait and see this. And it did shot.
And listen, I don't know now, like, how does Triple H handle this with these fans?
Well, listen, he's pretty much batting 1,000 right now to me in the big storylines. But me and Hayden were talking before you got here. You got to put the belt on Cena at WrestleMania and then let him eventually turn back good and do the favors and give it to somebody else, right?
That's exactly
before he quits.
It has to go that way.
And I was telling him the only thing that sucks is that's probably going to keep you from having Stone Cold come back to WrestleMania to help Cody, because I feel like Cody's going to lose.
You're right.
But there's a lot of scenarios. Listen, they keep throwing us for loops everywhere. We never thought the Royal Rumble winner would have been Jey Uso.
Yeah.
And here we are. So, all right. Last, before we get into our big topic, it's high school March Madness is here, college basketball, but it's also high school tournament basketball action. Dusty and I cover a lot of high school basketball in our area. Now, luckily, this was not even in Tennessee where we're from, but in Michigan and in Virginia last night in 2 high school basketball games, there were 2 officials attacked, one by players and assistant coach in Michigan, and in Virginia by a parent coming out of the crowd. And I'm talking about referees ended up on the ground attack, not verbally attacked. I'm talking assault. Physical assault.
There's no call for that whatsoever.
Well, my thing is, look, I'm a dad of 3. You coach your son, and I know your daughter didn't play, high school sports and stuff, but it'll be tougher on you when he gets up, into high school and stuff. But I had 3 daughters that played pretty competitive level, and there's times I was pissed off and probably yelled a lot of things at referees I shouldn't have. But what do you think the end game's going to be when you do that?
For one, you've just embarrassed the shit out of your kid.
Yeah.
I mean, completely embarrassed them. Second of all, you've probably just got yourself banned from every high school event that your child or children will ever be a part of.
I think that's lifetime.
Yes, lifetime.
I don't know what it is in other states, but I'm pretty sure it happens in Tennessee. You don't ever go back.
Yeah, and people don't realize that's not just going to a basketball game.
Yeah, that's anything.
You can't go to graduation.
Right.
You can't do anything. Listen, we've talked about officiating, and it, could be better. It's bad here. Hey, these guys doing good here. I don't care where you're at, what state. You don't cross that line.
Well, that's why you have to have faith in your coaches. But in this case, in Michigan, assistant coach.
So what about that guy? Should he be kicked out of team?
Well, the school put out a statement that he was fired, that he no longer has a job. But I'm sure that there's going to be something in the court system because find this referee.
I'm pressing
charges.
And the kid.
Yeah, the kid's kicked off the team. Probably suspended and all this stuff too. But again, for any of our listeners that may have kids, and you may. That's your baby out there, and I get it. And you may think they're being done wrong, but if you have to write it on your arm, there is no good outcome.
No.
Nothing good. You may go out there and whip a referee's ass, but you're still going to go to jail and never get to watch your kid play again.
Yes.
There's no good outcome that's going to happen. So that's our dumb people headline of the week.
Yeah.
We'll just call that one our idiot of the week.
Yeah, idiot of the week.
Idiots. All right, let's get into it, big guy. We got a whole lot to unpack and a whole lot to talk about. We're talking 10 years of baseball here.
Oh.
Well, -1 because we had a strike.
Yeah, we had a strike in 94.
But let's just get out of the way. 14 division titles never will be done again. I don't think it'll ever be done.
Nope.
But the thing that everybody always go to, and the reason we're doing the show, only one World Series title.
And that's a shame.
Yeah,
really.
It is. I think when we get done doing this, because I researched and found out some things that kind of made me feel better to do. I think it'll make you appreciate actually what they did as opposed to what they didn't do. The more we talk and you see what all the Braves actually did.
Right.
That because we just look at it like they went to 5 World Series and only won 1 in the 90s. Well, that's true, but they also did a lot of things that kind of will definitely overshadow it. We'll get into it more as we go. And, you guys may be listening to this and you go, no, that's still bull crap.
Yeah,
you may hate Bobby Cox. You may want to, I don't know. But I think to appreciate just how good the Braves were in the 90s, we've got to go back and look at how bad they were in the 80s.
They were one of the worst teams in baseball.
You had Dale Murphy, who had, and the Braves had a few good years in the early 80s. But to kind of sum up just how bad they were from 1984 to 1990, Dusty, they averaged losing 96 games a year.
Wow.
Yeah. Braves baseball, in our area, and I'm sure all over Georgia and surrounding states, it was pretty much just a TV show. If you remember back in the 80s, it was just a TV show. It was on TBS. That was great. And that was great to have in the 90s, too.
Yes.
Because you always knew where the Braves were going to be, which was great. But in the 80s, it was basically like comic relief on TBS. Well, let's watch the Braves and see how bad they're getting killed.
Yeah, because, they couldn't score runs.
Yeah.
Their pitching was horrible.
And I'm going to just say the first controversial thing on this show, maybe the first of many that we talk about on this show. It's Dale Murphy overrated. I know he's everybody's, especially our age and older. But was he just a really good player on a bad team? Because he's not in the Hall of Fame. His numbers aren't astronomical.
I will agree with.
Did he show up? Do we think he? Because I love Dale Murphy. That he was the first person he's one of the reasons I fell in love with baseball. Watching the Braves and watching Dale Murphy. I'm not trying to slight Dale Murphy, but you look back at it, was he really that good, or was he just that good on a really bad team?
Man, we're talking about the face of the Braves.
Well, no, we're talking about the face of the Braves
in the 80s. Yeah, in the 80s.
The baby blues.
The baby blues with no buttons.
Yeah.
I think you're right to a certain extent.
And I'm not saying he is. I'm asking the question.
But
I do think he was a little bit overrated as far as Braves fans goes.
I think that we would have still seen how good Dale Murphy was as a Brave if he was on another team.
Or if the Braves that came along in 91, 92 were 10 years older and he got to play with them then.
Right. Yeah.
Or Dale Murphy was 10 years younger.
I think if he had been 10 years younger and got to play with them. But, yeah, that's a tough one,
And when I say that, when you're the only person an opposing team's worried about, you probably get walked. Your stats probably aren't going to be that good.
No, they're not that good.
Because, you're really not worried about what anybody does against you because they were that. Like I said, you average losing 96 games a year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bad. We all know Ted Turner owned TBS, owned the Braves, bought the Braves.
Bought them.
But I think most people don't know. I did actually know this before looking it up, but he fired Bobby Cox as manager in 1981. Bobby Cox was the manager of the Atlanta Braves, and Turner fired him in 81. And when they asked who he was going to replace him with, he said, well, I'd like to find somebody just like Bobby Cox. That shows you how good of an owner Ted Turner was at the time. But he did bring Bobby Cox back in 1985, but not as a coach, as a general manager. And that is where I think people that hate Bobby Cox, that blame all of this on, blame them only winning one on Bobby Cox, I think this is where he can kind of win you back over. Because as the GM, he kind of set the blueprints for what was coming in the future in the Braves Farm League. You had names like Ron Gant, Dave Justice, Jeff Blauser, John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, Steve Avery, Mark Lemke.
Oh, yeah. I mean, his farm league was unbelievable.
Yeah. So Cox was back at it at manager in 90. Losing season, not very good. But when Cox went as manager, well, that brings in the John Sherholtz era as general manager, and things start rolling.
John Sherholtz, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, but I don't know that he don't get some of the credit he deserves.
Well, look at what he added to that 91 team before we get into that first 91 worst of first year. Added some veterans like Terry Pendleton. Terry Pendleton was the MVP that next year in 91.
91.
And should have been. Sid Breen running with that refrigerator on his back.
5D surgeries.
That play we will all remember.
Yeah.
Otis Nixon, faster than a hiccup.
Yep.
High on cocaine.
But
robbing home runs and stealing bases like crazy.
Covered so much ground in the outfield.
Yes. And so that's, to put those with Gant, Justice, that players, that's where you started to see what was to come in 91. The Braves went from last place to win the NL West, which was hard to believe, NL West. I remember that against the Dodgers and all that stuff now. But you're thinking back, said, why in the hell's Atlanta in the West?
When I got to reading into that, I'd forgot. You don't think about it. Because, the people who are probably listening to this right now, I'm sure there's some our age, but there's probably some maybe a little younger, and they're like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, they're probably thinking I meant to say East.
Right, but no, it was the West.
It was the West.
Yeah.
They beat the Pirates in a 7-game series to go to the World Series and face the Twins, who also went from worst to first. So you had two teams in there that were the worst teams in baseball the year before, and they're playing in the World Series. And I think probably underrated as maybe one of the best World Series of all time. Now, it sucks for us because the Braves didn't win it. And to this day, who was the big idiot first baseman for the Twins that pulled Gant off?
Herb Street. No.
It ain't we don't like Herb Street either. But,
Herbeck.
Kent Herbeck.
Kent Herbeck.
That's what it was, yeah. And but Game 7, Smoltzy versus Jack Morris was probably one of the greatest pitching duels you'll ever see in the World Series.
Ever. Jack Morris was such a great pitcher. He was older, but Smoltz was coming up, and Smoltzy.
Smoltzy had that piss and vinegar in 91, buddy.
But he did. I watched some video of that today. Had a little break, and dude, he's throwing cheese.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people may not realize it, but he moved that ball quite a bit with that speed.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nasty.
It was just dancing.
Oh, yeah.
But, in Game 7, the Braves had the chance to win it. And remember Lonnie Smith getting deep? Pendleton hits that ball in that gap.
And Lonnie wasn't looking at third base coach.
No. Knobloch deked him.
Yes. Knobloch, yeah. That's a name you don't hear.
No. But he did. He had him thinking the throw was coming in, and he held up. And then he realized, I got to get to 3, but far too late to score on that.
Oh, it was way too late. Wow.
And you still think, we're okay because you had Gant, Justice, and Breen all coming up right behind Pendleton. They don't score.
No, they don't score that
goes to 10 innings, and Braves get beat.
And they hit that little punch and Judy.
Because all the outfielders
everybody's in. Yeah,
had to go forward.
The only thing I could think of, and I seen that today watching it, is I thought if Otis Nixon would have been playing back just a little bit, he could have tracked it down.
Yeah, but see, I don't think he could have got the throw home for the tag though.
That's
why
true.
they were up.
Yeah, I mean, and it was over.
Yeah. Well, that was 91, and Dusty, me and you would have been about 11.
Yeah,
we would have been 11.
Yeah,
because it would have been fall of 91. So yeah. I can remember going to Braves games, maybe on the way to vacation, in the 80s, maybe 1990,
right.
Because you could go and pay about $5 and sit right behind the dugout.
Yeah, right behind the dugout.
I didn't really care for it. I was just ready to go to the beach. I was ready,
Well, I remember a trip. We're going to get off the subject just for a second, but I remember, and I think he was with us, but it was Josh Clifton and Ben Gobble, and I think it was you.
I think Aaron was Aaron.
Aaron might
maybe
have been,
Bryce.
maybe Bryce, but we were just
a lot
little
of our
turds.
childhood friends, folks.
Yeah, but I still remember going to that game and just being with my buddies. Our parents were with us and all. But yeah, $5 you get in the game.
Well, that's the thing. They were so bad you could sit behind the dugout.
Yes,
you sit behind the home plate
and get all the autographs if you wanted an autograph.
Yeah, you could get Dale Murphy.
Yeah, you can walk down there and get Dale Murphy's autograph.
But I do remember that 91 year, Mom and Dad, I think we did a family vacation in Atlanta. Like, wasn't a beach trip or anything like that, but I think we just went to Atlanta. I remember staying at the Ramada.
There was a Ramada Inn, like, over there close to the old, like, you're talking about Fulton County Stadium.
Yeah, this old stadium.
Yeah.
But we watched 2 games, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the Braves that year. And, like I said, you're watching TBS. I'm an 11-year-old kid. If the Braves were on, we were watching it. And I was the biggest Ron Gant fan that probably has ever been.
I vaguely remember you being a big.
And, of course, that was before we all knew what steroids were, too.
He was huge.
He was jacked.
And they talk about these players, coming up.
Like Bobby Lashley.
Yes, he did. Yes. They talk about these guys that played in the late 90s and then coming up in the 2000s. They talk about them having a cannon on their arm. Ron Gant had a cannon.
Yeah. And, I guess, I can't really remember. The older I get, it's hard to remember stuff. But I would dare to say that I was a Braves fan in the 80s and stuff. But seeing how good that team got that year just made me fall in love with baseball. I played baseball because my dad wanted me to. I played baseball because my buddies played baseball growing up, but I didn't really care for it.
Right.
The Braves made me love baseball.
Absolutely.
In 91.
Yes.
And it just all started from there. Let's go to 92. And we talked about it before. You asked me if I was going to talk about it. The trade that almost happened.
And, there's probably a lot of people that don't know that.
Yeah. I didn't know it until I researched it. If I'd heard it, I forgot it.
I forgot about it, and I started researching when we were talking about the show, and that was like one of the big things that come up. Mm-hmm. I was like, no way. And then, like, you really get to reading into it, they were just fixing to damn give him away.
Oh, no. What we're talking about, folks, the Braves, before the season started, had a deal made. They had an agreement made to get Barry Bonds. And, I saw an interview with Dave Justice, and Dave Justice said, he said, man, can you imagine how good we could have been if we had Bonds? And then Justice went, wait a minute. I probably wouldn't have been here if we got Bonds. Because he was in a contract disagreement at that time.
Yes, he was.
Like, he signed a 1-year deal, like, right after that.
Right.
And so Dave Justice probably wouldn't have been, but I'd have traded Justice for Bonds.
Yes. For all you Justice fans, I would have definitely traded Justice for Bonds.
But apparently, it was the owners, the GMs for both sides agreed to it, and Jim Leland got heard of it, and he said, bullshit.
Jim Leland, I can see you now smoking that cigarette saying, that ain't happening.
And he shot it down, apparently, but it was almost, plane tickets were bought.
Yes, it was a done deal. Like, we're going up to the table to sign the paperwork, and Leland's like, no, it ain't happening.
And to that said, who did the Braves play again in the NLCS that year?
Pittsburgh.
They pretty much had the same squad, but one big addition we'd had in that 92 year? Prime time.
Prime time.
Bring in Deion Sanders. You knew what Deion, not just playing football and baseball and all the extravagance Deion brings with him for the Braves, but you know what he brought with him that probably stands out the most? The tomahawk chop. Deion Sanders brought that. You know, Braves didn't have the tomahawk chop in 91. They had it in 92, and Deion brought it from Florida State.
Okay.
He got that started in Atlanta, and I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I'd have never known that.
But you know what? I didn't write it down or anything, but I don't know how many of them down phone tomahawks we had, but I guarantee whoever invented them things ain't worked since 93.
No, they had to work a lick. Because them things was about $10 back in.
They were everywhere.
And you could shake them about 3 times the head fall off.
Yeah. You gotta beat the crappity brother with or something.
Yeah. You got to go get another one. Yeah.
But the Braves did. They cruised in 92. Like, there wasn't they cruised in 92 back to the NLCS and faced the Pirates. And, of course, we all know what that brought on in Game 7.
I call it the slide heard around the world.
The slide heard around. Well, the main thing I remember, I didn't even realize this. Francisco Cabrera had only appeared in 12 games all year.
Really?
Did you know that?
No.
It just didn't seem right, but he only appeared in 12 games all year, so they bring him in to pinch hit, and Bream's on second. And he hits that little CNI single in the 5-6 hole. And then I think I remember looking at my mom or dad and saying, is this in slow motion? And my dad saying, no, Sid Bream's just that slow, son.
Listen, I remember. I remember where I was at. That's that moment. I was with my papa. Mm-hmm. Sitting at their house here in town, watching. That's where I learned Atlanta Braves baseball.
Yeah.
And I remember, seeing him come around third, like you're saying, and I'm like
a damn refrigerator was like touched to his back.
I was like, they're gonna tag him halfway down the line.
They're gonna get the rundown,
and he's really out there for sure. He's really out.
Yeah. Oh. But that safe call is one of the. I think if you make any top 5 Brave highlights of all time, it's in the top 5.
Oh,
maybe number 1.
It may be number 1 of all time. Listen, that's going to be in Major League Baseball. I think that's a top 5 moment. Mm-hmm. And maybe just because, and I know we'll get into talking about him a little bit more, but Skip.
Oh, yeah.
When that brings back memories of me thinking about Jim Ross hollering Stone Cold.
Braves win.
He said it 1,000,000 times right there.
Yeah. And I was at the end of that. I was going to answer some of our listener questions and some of our buddies that put some stuff. And Will Pettis, our good friend, he said you got to talk about the play-by-play guys and the crew. And I'll talk pretty much good about everybody except Joe Simpson. I can't stand that guy.
I can't stand Joe Simpson. I don't put. I really just give it to 2.
Don
or Pete.
Pete Van Wieren. I love Don Sutton.
Well, yeah, Don Sutton's amazing, but I'm talking about just
the broadcast voices.
Yes, the broadcast.
Pete Van Wieren.
But listen, he was like your modern day Adam Schefter.
Oh yeah.
He knows every statistic about the Atlanta Braves that you would ever know.
Yeah, we'll get back to that in a little bit, but after that huge Game 7 win against the Pirates, they go to the Blue Jays and lost in 6 and bring on Joe freaking Carter.
And Joe Carter wasn't a great baseball player.
Other than those 2 years with those 2 World Series that the Blue Jays won, you didn't really hear about that.
No, you didn't. He might have hit, we'll have to go really dig into it, but he might have hit 30 homers in 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, see how many home runs Joe Carter hit. Now, hey, he might be up there like 500. It may be like, well, what the hell was we talking about? But that's basically what I remember of it. You go and you just it was one of those. I can remember it as plain as day, Dusty. I just never felt like we were going to win that one from Game 1.
No, I'm the same way. I thought going into the game, going into the series, like Toronto was on such a. If you go back and do a lot of research like we have, Toronto was on a run.
Yeah,
and the Braves kind of had petered off a little bit.
Well, that's one thing I think will be a topic that we talk in the Braves is dominated regular season, got there and just kind of kept their fingers stuck in that hole in the dam, and then teams that just got hot were the ones that won it.
Right. Career 396 home runs.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And batting average is 259.
Okay, well, so if Joe Carter, just by chance, if you're listening to the Clint and Dusty podcast, we didn't mean to slight you any, because you had a hell of two.
He hit 35 home runs, and he hit 33 and 91, hit 34 and 92, and 33 and 93.
Okay, well, that's pretty good 3 years.
Yeah, I'll give him that.
You know, and they would win it the next year against Philly. The Braves had a great year, but got to the, they had a great all year long battle with the Giants, who Bonds did go to that next year.
Yes.
And they had all year. I mean, it came down to the last game. Braves won, had to watch and see if the Giants lost in the locker room.
Yes.
And the Giants lost. And then you're thinking, well, all right, well, they've got it. Well, then they play the Phillies, and the Phillies with probably the oldest team in the history of baseball. Lenny Dykstra, John Kruk.
Darren Dalton?
Yeah, Darren Dalton. They look like a men's league softball team.
Nobody's in shape.
No.
Tommy Green, I'm sitting there pulling up.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up who was actually their stars on that roster.
Wild Thing, Mitch Williams. Mitch Williams had the goofiest delivery and that you probably ever seen. But I guess the main thing, the best thing, and the main thing, if you weren't going to win a World Series that year, that was the year the Braves got Mad Dog.
Had Kurt Schilling.
The Braves got Greg Maddux in '93.
They did get Maddux in '93.
And you talking about? I'll argue with anybody. Those next 2 years. Greatest pitching staff that is in the history of baseball. Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, John Smoltz, Steve Avery, who is probably doesn't get near as much credit as he deserves.
I mean, they talk about him getting bullied in the bullpen and all that stuff. Like, he didn't fit with them guys.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he was definitely a strong number 4.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he kept the Braves in that first round. He's the reason the Braves went to 7 games. He was 2-0.
Yes, he was.
Against the Twins.
Right.
He dominated.
Yes.
And it wasn't because the Braves just killed the ball. It's because Steve Avery shut the Twins down. But we'll get back more to Steve Avery because we got some more questions. I think that was one that was asked about Steve Avery. But 94, 2 terrible things happened. The strike. So we get it, it wasn't a World Series, but to me, the worst thing that happened, Ron Gant wrecked his motorcycle. Ron Gant wrecks his motorcycle, breaks his leg in about 8 places, have to have all kind of surgery, and the Braves trade him.
They got rid of him.
Braves trade him, and he had to do a lot of rehab, and then he had a career with Cincinnati, Oakland, St. Louis. He kind of traveled around there, but never was the same after that. He never was
the same after that.
But the Braves shook up the rosters in 95, Dusty. 95 is the year we wanted to get to. This is the year we got to say, all right, no more. We are not the Buffalo Braves anymore.
Nope.
All right? They shake it up a little bit. You get Chipper Jones. Chipper's a rookie. Third baseman, Marquise Grissom. Add a little bit more pop to the offense, but a great defensive player in the outfield. Ryan Klesko.
Big stick.
Yeah. You got Mark Wohlers. Probably one of the best closers in about a 3-year span there. Probably had the best 3 years as a closer. I'd put him up against anybody. Yeah. But you say goodbye to Pendleton, Gant, Sid Bream. They're gone.
Yep.
So it starts a new era. You still got a lot of the same old, but you're making room for some new. The Braves sweep the Reds in the NLCS. I mean, just demolish the Reds.
Just smoked them.
They look like they were on a mission. So then they go to play the Indians, who are just like the Braves. They're hungry for a World Series. They haven't had one. And let me tell you something. I'd forgot just how loaded the Indians were until I go back and do this. But Bell, Tomey, and Murray are enough.
Yes.
But, I mean, there was not an easy out until you played in Atlanta and got to pitch to the pitcher. For that Cleveland team.
Yes, and that was
Kenny Lofton.
One of the fastest guys to ever play the game.
I mean, that was I'd forgot just how big of a. I mean, I'd forgot how huge Albert Bell was. Seeing some of those videos, him just running people over.
Yeah, that dude's mean. I mean, hell, he got hit by a pitch.
And he used to go first.
Yeah, I'm not going. I mean, what's the umpire going to do? Yeah. You're going? No.
Yeah. The Braves, they start out 2-0 in that series, and that was at Cleveland. got a 2-0 lead. You know, you're thinking we're sweeping them.
Oh yeah.
Well, then we come to Atlanta, and Cleveland wins 2 out of 3 in Atlanta. So the Braves are holding on to a 3-2 lead and have to go back
to Cleveland.
Wait, that wasn't right.
Yeah.
Oh. Wait a minute. That's not right. The Braves start out 2-0, and then Cleveland wins 2 out of 3 in Cleveland because Grissom caught the catch in Game 6. It was in Atlanta. They won it in Atlanta. Yeah.
Okay.
I just read my notes wrong.
Okay.
But then when they went to Cleveland won 2 out of 3 to make it a series. Braves leading 3-2. That goes to Game 6. Before we even talk about Game 6, do you remember Dave Justice took a lot of slack for, I think he was just calling out the fans, and everything I've went back and read and saw what he said, he was basically just saying we need the fans to be as loud as they were in Cleveland. I don't think he was saying our fans are bad, but boy, them damn Atlanta fans sure took it that way.
They did, and I think that was a lot of misunderstanding.
Because Oral Hershiser trolled the crap out of Atlanta fans too. And if you watch that interview,
yes,
I went back and watched that, and he pretty much on Sports Center or whatever show, he said, you know, I just think the Braves fans, you know, from what Dave Justice said, you know, they just don't think they can win it and stuff. And I think Oral Hershiser was a troll before trolling. Everybody know what a troll was.
You know, and that kind of like just, and I don't know the guy, I don't know a lot about him, but like just looking at him, that kind of looks like his demeanor. Mm-hmm. You know, but yeah, Justice, he had a lot of apologizing to do. Mm-hmm. And listen, that's a bad time to be in the middle of a fight.
Well, I remember the first time he comes to the plate, it was all booze. You can go back and watch Game 6. It's all his first at bat when they call out starting lineups. It's all booze for Dave Justice in Atlanta in the World Series.
Wow.
Now that brings me to 7th inning, 0-0. Tom Glavine's pitching the best game he's ever pitched in his life. And Tom Glavine comes in the dugout. There's audio. There's a video of this. Anybody, do you want to go see it and just get yourself pumped up? Tom Glavine, who's always been quiet demeanor,
very quiet,
you know, never showed a lot of emotion, goes into the dugout and says, I need y'all to get me one. Just get me one, because them some bitches ain't scoring tonight. I mean, he had it. He had it. And then Dave Justice goes out there. It's kind of half booze, half cheers, because, you know, at the end of the day, we still want to win. We may be pissed off at you.
Yeah.
Hits one out, gives the Braves a 1-0 lead. All's forgiven. That famous call, Dave Justice, all's forgiven in Atlanta.
That's it. That's exactly what it.
And, you know, that goes to the, you know, my favorite, we talked about Skip Carey and his quotes. That's my favorite Skip Carey quote. The Atlanta Braves have given you a championship.
Yep. And for me and you, to hear that from him means a lot.
Means a lot, and it felt like a monkey got off my back.
Yes.
And I was just a fan.
But all them years of when we say fans, folks, if you're listening and you wasn't a huge Braves fan in the area we live in, mm-hmm. you were a Braves fan, like mm-hmm. thick and thin. If they lost a heartbreaker, you might cry with mm-hmm. your grandma. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to think you wasn't sitting at home with just your mom and dad. You might be at your grandparents' house and listen, it's 6 o'clock and we're going to have supper. Mm-hmm. Well, the TV's on in the living room and my papa's sitting where he can see the TV. Mm-hmm. That's what Atlanta Braves baseball meant to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, because you felt like we went through it with them. The hard times, the losses.
Yes.
And then you see them get there and they couldn't, and then they finally did. And it was just so much redemption. It was just so great.
Oh, just, like you said, like the monkey was off your back. You know, I remember sitting down and it was just like when I was with my grandparents. Mm-hmm. I was just like, oh, man. Mm-hmm. You know, it took a little while for it to sink in. Yep.
And then going into after that, you know, celebrate. Everything's rolling. Pretty much bring that to the very same team for the next year. And to me, 96 is the one that got away.
I think you're right.
I think 96 should have been back-to-back. I can honestly say, looking back, the Twins would have been a toss-up. Because I think they were both the same situation. I think it's just a toss-up and bad. Braves could have won but didn't. But I'm not going to, you know, I think the next year, the Blue Jays, I think Blue Jays are just better.
Yeah, that's fair.
96, they did what they had to do to win it. 95, they did what they had to do to win it. 96, they were up 2-0 on the Yankees. Let's get into that. Our buddy Justin Tipper, he said, we got to talk about my Yankees. This is where the Yankees dynasty started.
And that's what you say. Again, a lot of people may not realize that.
I think the Yankees were always great.
No, they wasn't. They were very bad.
Don Mattingly's Yankees, they were terrible.
They sucked. They were like the 80s Braves.
Yeah.
And so now you're starting this dynasty over again for them.
Derek Jeter, rookie
year.
Bernie Williams, I think maybe 2 years into the league.
Maybe Paul O'Neill.
Mo might have been a rookie that year.
He might have been.
I'm not going to do that much research on the Yankees.
No, I'm not either. Andy Pettitte would have been real young.
Yeah, I don't even know if Pettitte would have been even on that squad. But either way, yes. It started that new Yankee dynasty. And the Braves were up 2-0. Won 2-0 at New York. That's where I got confused on the last one.
Right.
The Braves jumped up to a 2-0 lead at New York. Then get to come home and you think, all right, we're sweep.
Yes.
Not only did we not sweep, we got swept.
We got swept
from that point on.
Yeah, it's just unreal.
And it all happened. The Braves blew a 6-0 lead at home, and then lost in extra innings, and it was all she wrote after that. But to me, 95 team was great, but the 96 team was actually better, and the wheels fell off, and they choked. That's the one choke job I'll give them is 96.
Yeah, and listen, I put a lot of that on Bobby.
Yeah.
I think at some point right in there we can talk about, I think him and Leo Mazzoni, I don't think they were on the same page.
Yeah.
If you go back and do a little bit of research into some of that.
Yeah, and I didn't look into anything like that.
I'm not saying that's the reason why, but I think, I put that one on. Because you got the players. Those guys, like you said, the same team. We run in it back to back. I put that one on. I put that one on the coaches mainly and the players. But I think Bobby.
Well, I see what you're saying. Look, anybody can armchair quarterback. We can always look and say we should have took him out there, should have put them in there, and there probably is a lot of fault that I'm sure Bobby Cox takes to this day.
Absolutely,
that has to live with. But again, you got a 2-0 lead at New York, and you get to come home for 3 games
and can't sniff a win.
That's on the players too.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Bobby can't hit it for him. He can't pitch it for him. He can't catch it for him. And something happened, and I don't know what it was. But the Braves, they lose that one. That was their 4th World Series in the 90s. But what really sucked, was David Weathers on the next year? David Weathers, local major league player from our area, neck of the woods.
Played for Miami.
But was he on the Marlins? Because the Marlins won it the next year.
David Weathers has 2 rings. He's got one for Florida and one with the
97.
Yeah, it would have been 97.
So the Marlins win it next year, and they're freaking expansion team. They ain't been in the league, but what, 3 years?
3 years.
They've only been in the league 3 years and have won just as many as we have, and we've been to 4.
Yeah.
That's what was hard to bite stomach.
And I think that was the fall.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is where the wheels.
It was 2 years in a row where the Braves rolled through the regular season, get to the playoffs, fall apart. The very next year, that song we were quoting at the first of the year. Now, we got a great Morgan Wallen song out of it.
Right.
But that 98 Braves team, they were great.
They were unreal.
They were great.
And, I told you before we started, I got a few things to talk about that, about falling off, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah. And then to wind up the 90s, the Braves would return to the World Series in 99, but they got swept.
They got swept by the Yankees. And that right there put the stamp, I think, on the dynasty for the Yankees.
It did.
It started in 96, but in 99, they stamped it.
About the only highlights you got out of that 99 team was John Rocker's crazy ass throwing out all them racist comments and stuff about New Yorkers. Yeah. That was about the only offense you got out of Atlanta in that whole World Series.
That dude's a nut.
He's crazy.
He's crazy.
I reckon they called off that Rocker and Mahomes fight too. Have you noticed? Do you know that?
Did they call it off?
Mahomes.
Yeah.
I think Patrick said, "No, we're not doing this."
No, because Rocker would have got in there and wanted to knock his head off.
Yeah, he been training.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll wind us up. with basically year to year and stuff. You got anything we didn't touch on you want to talk about before we get into some listener comments and questions?
I was just going to bring up one thing when we talk about maybe things that could have been done different. Mm-hmm. And I got to researching Smoltz a little bit. Mm-hmm. And Smoltz has been very vocal about how he felt about how the pitching was done in that run. Mm-hmm. And it's real simple. He says that power pitching wins in the playoffs, meaning finesse pitching doesn't win in the playoffs.
Basically gets teed off a little bit.
That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the runs. Mm-hmm. Maddox and Glavine wanted you to hit it. Mm-hmm. Well, John Smoltz didn't want you to touch it. Mm-hmm. Well, in the playoffs, you don't want them hitting it because that gives them a chance for more base runners and runs. And I kind of see both points. Mm-hmm. And then, they start throwing out these stats. Maddox has got an Atlanta Braves career record in the postseason of 11-13.
Maddox has a losing record.
Has a losing record with a 2.81 ERA. Mm-hmm. Tom Glavine is 12-15.
Even more of a losing record.
With a 3.44 ERA. Uh-huh. And Smoltz is 15-4.
Smoltz, he dominated then. I would never have known that.
Smoltz dominated in the playoffs with a 2.70 ERA.
And what you're saying, because clearly you're not going to not pitch Glavine and Maddox.
Well, sure.
But Smoltz is saying he needed to be opening. He needed to be game one.
That's my opinion as well.
He needed to be game one and game four, game five.
Because Smoltz, the way he was built, he could go on 2 days rest or 3 days if you look at it that way. Because he'd have got game one in Atlanta or wherever, he's going to get 3 days and then he'd go again. Right. I kind of agree with Smoltz right there.
Yeah.
Now is that? Plainly the records show that they had losing records. Mm-hmm. So could that mean that maybe the Braves could have, maybe got one more?
Listen, sometimes stats get skewed, but those stats don't lie. Smoltz was 15-3.
15-4.
15-4. Because here's the thing. You can go to any player that played for the Braves in the 90s. Nobody's probably got a winning record in the World Series anyway.
No.
But Smoltz did. And so I see what you're saying there. Now, I don't think there's any, like you weren't saying there's any turmoil or anything like that was just because I think they're all three.
They're great friends.
Great friends. And
I looked into that. Like they are great friends.
But as a competitor and the way he felt,
right.
I want the ball first, game one and game four.
Yes. And like I said, in my opinion, I think Smoltz right.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good research right there. And I would never have. I don't know that I would have guessed that the record wise, but I would never have thought it would have been that big a differential in Smoltz 15-4 and the other two with a losing record.
Right. I would have never thought it would have Maddox.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't either. So that's pretty good. All right, we're going to get to some of our listener. Some of our listener had some comments and questions. Mr. Drew Oldham, he didn't really have a question. He just wants us to know Andrew, talking about Andrew Jones, should be in the Hall of Fame. Well, Dusty, he had 10 Gold Gloves. He was a career 254 average, had 434 home runs, 1,289 RBIs, 152 stolen bases. You know I got a but in here, though, right? But he also has a massive 1,748 strikeouts to go within his career. Now, Andrew's been on the ballot and just couldn't receive the 75% of the vote. And I don't know if he's run out of. Is he eligible to get back on it?
I'm trying to look that up right now to see if he's actually even eligible to get back on the ballot. I don't think he is.
Now, Drew, I'm not going to say he shouldn't be on it in the Hall of Fame. But I don't think he's getting in before Dale Murphy does, because Dale Murphy's not in it.
Dale Murphy's not in the Hall of Fame either. Andrew Jones.
And to me, that was, Andrew, when he came out, we didn't talk about it, and I had it wrote down for that 96 year. But that was Andrew Jones' rookie year when we went and lost to the Yankees. But Andrew Jones did some great things, but my God, there were times I thought I could strike him out.
Yeah, he was either big hit or go home.
But the Braves aren't as successful in that run that they were. I know they didn't win any World Series with him, but the Braves aren't that successful if they don't have Andrew Jones.
Oh, absolutely not.
I mean,
and I'm going to give a little talk about my papa again.
Yeah.
Used to make him so mad because Andrew smiled all the time.
Yeah.
He'd strike out and he'd be smiling. And papa would say, "Why are you smiling for? You just struck out with runners on base." You know?
Here's one that I think we kind of got into a little bit, but we'll talk more a little bit in depth about it. And I had no idea. I did try to pull it up as much as I could, but our buddy Mr. Brian Newton wanted to know if the Braves pitchers / bullpen bullied Steve Avery. Now, everything I pulled up said there's no evidence of bullying, but Avery did admit that he did not fit in well with those big three. To me, that's animosity. If you don't fit in with those three, then you've got a problem. Yeah. Or something's not right.
Right, and that's where when we were talking, that's kind of where I was at. Like, he just didn't fit with those guys. Mm-hmm. Now, will we ever know the rest of it? Probably not. But I'm with you. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's on Avery. Maybe it's too big for him, or maybe he wanted to be in that third spot. Maybe he felt like he was there before Maddox got there. Maybe he felt like his spot got taken. I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right.
Now, I honestly, Brian, I appreciate the question, and it's a good one, but I have no idea. And everything I looked at, clearly Smoltz, Glavine, and Maddox ain't going to say, "Yeah, we bullied him."
We used to pop him with a wet towel.
I mean, I don't know if we'll ever know that one, but thank you for the question, Justin Tipper. He wants to know, in our opinions, who's the better hitter, Fred McGriff or Dave Justice? I'll go first, as it looks like you're having a hard time with this. I'm going to say McGriff. McGriff is who I'd rather have.
Clutch-wise, definitely Fred McGriff, but I think David Justice was when you needed, I know I'm controversial here when I say that about Griff being clutch, but I think when you needed that big hit.
Well, see, I'm going to say McGriff was more consistent and Justice was more clutch.
Okay.
But I would rather have McGriff. My mom, she asked one, and I didn't put it on this one because I don't want to talk about it. But did you know that she asked me? I guess she thought we were wanting trivia questions. Now she didn't put it on the Facebook thing. She just texted it to me. Blom, bless her heart. She thought we wanted trivia questions, and she said, "Which former Brave hit 30 home runs for 5 different teams?" That's Fred McGriff.
Yeah.
5 different teams. He hit 30 home runs, 5 different seasons for 5 different teams. That's consistency.
That is being consistent, yeah.
So, Tip, I'd rather have McGriff. I think Dusty'd rather have Justice. But either way, I'll take either one of them. I don't think you lose.
No, I don't think you lose.
Let me just split the tie. I'll take Ron Gant.
You'll take Ron Gant?
I'm still heartbroken he broke his leg on a freaking Ducati.
Could you imagine a healthy Ron Gant going into that season?
Yeah. Will Pettis, our good buddy, he wants us to mention the legends in the booth and how lucky we were to have the Braves on TBS to watch every game. And we talked about that. It's not like now where you got to have the right streaming channel, you got to have the right Comcast. You could turn it on TBS. And you knew what time every day of the week the Braves were playing. Wednesday was early, right?
Wednesday was early, and the rest of the games were like 6:05. They had a funny start date, like 6:05 or 7:35 or something like that.
But we were blessed. I love Skip Carey. I love Pete Van Wieren. I can just hear that voice right now talking. This is Pete Van Wieren for the Atlanta Braves. I can hear it now. Don Sutton, the pitcher. I love Don Sutton. Yeah, and it seemed like you would get 2. Wouldn't they swap it up every night?
Yes, they swap.
You would have 2 that did radio and 2 that did TV, and then they would swap, right?
Yes. Okay,
that's what I was thinking it was. One that gets left out of that, Ernie Johnson was with the Braves from like 82 to 94, I think. Before he went to 94, he went from the Braves to inside the NBA.
I'm gonna pull it up
right now. They had Ernie Johnson for a while. But again, screw Joe Simpson. I never could stand listening to Joe Simpson. I always thought he was just seemed too smug to me. I don't know. Just seemed like somebody that.
I thought he just always felt like he was too good
everything.
For that. Yeah, and he didn't know anything.
Yeah, it is. So Will, yes, I loved all of them except for Joe Simpson. My mother wanted to know if we could name what catcher had his leg broke in '92. Well, that's Greg Olson.
Greg Olson.
Yeah, and she also wanted to know when they traded him, who replaced him. Well, that's Javi Lopez, right?
Yes, Javi Lopez.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't say nothing.
Well, I was looking here. Ernie Johnson Jr., His daddy was a play-by-play guy
for the Milwaukee Braves
from 1966 to 99 on the radio. And then he passed. And then Ernie Johnson, of course, we know him as the guy from the NBA, 1993 to 96. And then he stepped away, and in 2010 he done it one year.
Scoop, Brian Newton, he also wanted to know what was our all-time starting five. I think that would take a while. I think that's something we could probably do in a poll question or maybe for another show or something, but that would take a while.
It would.
If you just did 90, if you only just did 90s, I said starting lineup, that would take a while, but it would. I tell you what, that might be something we put out there after this show. When we put it out in the comment section, tell us what you think and give me your all-time Braves. You can go Hank Aaron, you can go Negro, you can go wherever. All-time Braves starting lineup. Who's on the mound?
Pitching, catching.
Give me your batting order, everything.
Give me a DH.
Yep. All right. Well, Dusty, I think how long have we been on here, Hayden?
57 minutes.
Hey, that's pretty good, big guy.
We're doing real good.
We're under an hour, so we're going to be right at an hour. I'll go with my final thoughts first on the Braves as a whole and what it meant to me. I'd already said it made me fall in love with baseball. It made me want to play baseball more. Because before then, like I said, I was playing for my dad. I was playing because my buddies did it. But after that, I loved baseball, and I wanted to be good at it. And I never got good at it, or real good at it, but I loved it. And I want to say I love Bobby Cox. I love Bobby Cox. Because you go back, how great just anybody, if you're ever bored one day, go back to the 700,000 YouTube videos that there's made of Bobby Cox's greatest ejections. And it will make your day.
If you're having a bad day, I challenge you to watch him.
But let me tell you why I love him, especially as somebody that has coached. Those players would die on the hill for that man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he would do the same. He had his players back. And yes, we can probably put a lot of blame on. A lot of people probably put too much blame, and myself included, on Bobby Cox for us only winning one World Series. But you know what? If it wasn't for Bobby Cox, we would have sucked just as bad in the 90s as we did the 80s.
Absolutely, yeah, we've probably been worse.
He's the one that got that ball rolling. He's the one that developed that young talent that started going on that run and made it happen and made us all excited and fall in love with Atlanta Braves baseball.
Right.
So that's kind of my final thoughts of it. I mean, just the memories of it. I remember Jeff Treadway hitting 3 home runs in one game, and he might have been the worst Brave that they had in that stretch.
Jeff Treadway, man.
Just little bitty things that happened in those. I remember Mark Lemke having the goofiest swing, but clutch. Call him Mr. October.
And Jeff Blauser was going to boot a ball a game.
Yeah. Mark Lemke was Mr. October before Derek Jeter was. Okay?
Yes.
So anybody that may not know that, and you may be going, who the hell is Mark Lemke?
Look it up. Yeah, look him up.
But anyways, my final thoughts, I appreciate the Braves for doing, even though I would like to have won 4, 5, 6 more World Series than that one we did, I'm appreciative of what they did give us. So I'll turn it over to you, buddy.
My final thoughts, I'm the same way with you when it comes to the playing ball. I love baseball. Dale Murphy was my childhood Braves hero. But for me, what a lot of it meant to me was time spent that I get to remember with my pawpaw.
Right.
And what Atlanta Braves baseball meant to me and him. And now that I'm older and I get to sit here and talk with you about what this is, it's really good. And people don't realize when we talk about America's team, the Braves put the country on their shoulders. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's something we didn't even talk about. I mean, obviously, Jane Fonda's at every Braves game because she hitched up to old Ted Turner. But, I mean, there's celebrities
everywhere
in the front row with them every home game.
Yep.
Atlanta turned into, it was always Chicago, New York, and L.A. The Braves made Atlanta one of the big four.
Yes, they did. And that's why people need to be thankful for the Braves.
Well, and here's the other thing, especially people from Georgia. Did you know, I didn't even realize this till I was doing it, that one championship that Atlanta has is the only championship any Atlanta sports team has ever won. Hawks never have.
And the Falcons.
Falcons never have. That one is Atlanta's only one.
Wow. And
how crazy is that?
That is crazy to think about. And that's a big town now.
It sure is.
I mean, they had some great basketball teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my final thoughts on it. Like I said, this was a great topic for me. Mm-hmm. It was like you said, it was real fun going back and researching a lot of this. And listen, folks, there's a lot of clips on YouTube that you can go back and watch of some of this old stuff that we've done. It's pretty interesting facts.
Yeah. We'll just call it now as well. I think our next show, we're going to do the rise and fall. You good with that?
Yeah.
The rise of Alabama and the fall of Tennessee. And
now it's the rise of Tennessee and the fall of Alabama.
Thank God.
Shit.
Hey, it all comes in waves, baby. It all comes in waves. All right. I'm Clint Brazier.
I'm Dusty Kaiser.
Thank you guys so much for listening to Cutting Up with Clint and Dusty.